Welcome back to your favorite channel on YouTube. Today, we're back with Jack Vandy of HTSP and my annoying brother. Let's get into it.
God bless.
Today, we are doing the tight end tier list.
So, we have 6 tiers. God tier, elite, above average, solid, not ideal, and trash. Let's get into God tier. So, I think this one's pretty obvious. Our one God tier tight end is Darren Fells.
Right, former Brown, absolute legend, gotta love him.
Actually, I'll make an honorable mention to the God tier, and that is Orange High School's own Lawson Blasier right here.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, moving on to the elite tier.
Travis Kelce. This one should be pretty obvious. The best tight end in the game. Well, second or third behind probably Darren Fells and Orange High School's own Lawson Blasier.
Obviously.
Fair.
But Travis Kelce just broke the record for most receiving yards by a tight end in this season. He's been doing it for like 6 seasons straight now. Dude is an absolute beast, never misses a game. That's a pretty easy choice for us.
100%.
Okay.
Then Darren Waller, excellent player, had a breakout season this year. We also put him in the elite tier.
Because he is an elite.
He's my number 2 tight end in the NFL.
My number 3, I think this next guy that we're going to talk about is still better. He has had some injury problems, but when he's healthy, this dude has a case to be better than even Kelce, and that is George Kittle of the San Francisco 49ers. Absolute beast. And I'm interested to see, you know what, Jimmy G's a solid quarterback, but if they ever upgrade that quarterback, dude, George Kittle, man, he could, the sky's the limit.
I think Kittle's very talented, but can't stay on the field, so that's my problem with him.
All right, moving on to our next category, or tier, I should say, is above average. We only got 3 guys in the above average tier. Sorry, I did not do well at math class. Beginning with number 1, we've got Noah Fant of the Denver Broncos. And Noah Fant, he hasn't quite had his breakout season yet, but that's kind of hard when you have Horsecock Locke as your quarterback. And he's just, I think the talent is all there. He just needs to put it all together. And this is kind of looking ahead into the future. So Noah Fant in the above average.
Talent's there. Numbers aren't completely there yet, but talent is 100%
I'm looking for
there.
him next season to maybe be up in that elite tier and be an elite tight end. Next up, we have Mark Andrews. Not my personal favorite, but I mean, he's clearly a good player. Like Noah Fant, the talent's there, but sometimes the numbers aren't.
And it definitely hurts him being on the Ravens, you know.
Yeah, with a running back at QB.
Yeah, it's not ideal. The passing volume isn't there for Mark Andrews, which is why he's so inconsistent, but he is a really solid tight end and really tough to cover, even when the ball is flying 10 feet over his head. Okay, next we got
One of my personal favorites.
TJ Hawk from the Lions.
No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
Talk some.
TJ Hawkinson. He's a beast, a former number 8 overall pick, I think, to the Detroit Lions. And he got Matt Patricia didn't like this pick apparently, but that's why he's fired. TJ Hawkinson is an absolute beast. He kind of had to put it all together last year, but I think his best seasons are still ahead of him for sure.
Now has Jared Goff at quarterback. Potential downgrade from Stafford.
Although Stafford's never been a super tight end. He's never loved his tight ends. I feel like Goff, it's a little more affinity, so it might even out.
That's why I think Stafford's going to do very well in Los Angeles with the Rams, because they really don't have that kind of tight end, and they do have some good receiving threats.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, that caps it off for the above average tier. Next, we got the solid tier. And in the solid tier, we're going to start it off with Green Bay Packers tight end Robert Tonyan, one of the favorites on the Chosen Ones channel.
Yeah, so I'm actually a big fan of him. I could honestly see him in elite, and I really wanted him in above average, but we decided solid because he hasn't really had that crazy season yet.
I mean, I like Robert Tonyan. I think he's solid.
I 100% agree. I think he's solid. I don't think he's a stud. Maybe not even that great, but he is solid.
He's solid. Next we got Jonnu Smith, newly signed Patriots tight end. And Jonnu Smith is one of the best tight ends when he gets the ball in his hands. He just kind of never put up the numbers in Tennessee because they never used him as like one of their prime weapons. So I'm really interested to see Jonnu Smith get the ball. However, I don't know if that'll happen with Cam Newton at quarterback. I mean, Cam Newton threw like 8 touchdowns and 11 interceptions last year.
I mean, see, he does, like, a tight end. See, that's why the Patriots are stacking up on tight ends, I think, because Cam Newton just does not have the arm anymore. So they're just going to run some tight end short routes and try to get decent yards that way. And yeah, I do think Jonnu Smith definitely had his breakout season this year, but I still do not think the numbers are quite there. But with the ball in his hands, he is a great tight end.
Next up, we got Jonnu Smith's new teammate,
Hunter Henry.
Another
one of my favorite players.
And I disagree with that. He's one of my least favorite players. I think Hunter Henry's super overrated. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's all that good, but we put him in the solid tier.
I just like the dude. I don't know how good he really is, but
For me,
I think he's good, but I don't know.
For me, he seems to be
Pretty cool.
consistently okay. He doesn't seem to have great games, doesn't seem to have terrible games.
Yeah, and that's what I think would be, that's why I think it's perfect that he's teamed up with Jonnu Smith, because every once in a while Jonnu Smith has that big game, but you can always count on Hunter Henry for a consistent game.
I agree with that point. I like that. I think he's the definition of solid.
Yeah.
All right, next we got one of the greatest of all times. I'm gonna skip over here. We're going Rob Gronkowski. And you know what? Gronk, he's been in the elite tier in the past. He's been in the above average tier in the past. He's been in the God tier in the past. But he's not the same player anymore. Yeah. We all love Gronk, so we're putting him in the solid tier. Because he's a solid tight end. But you know what?
Came back, won a Super Bowl.
I mean, he definitely could have been put in the not ideal tier after the regular season, but he for sure showed up in the Super Bowl, which solidified him at least being solid.
100%.
Next up, we got the Soulless Slayer and Hunter Hurst of the Atlanta Falcons. Hayden Hurst, excuse me. Well, I was so busy talking about Hunter Henry.
Monday mouth?
Yeah.
Hayden Hurst of the Atlanta Falcons. Hayden Hurst, man, I mean, he's solid. I think he's kind of just borderline solid to not ideal. He hasn't really put it all together yet, but he's very athletic. And
he seems like he has a great upside.
Good upside, yeah. And he's a good guy. He's a really good guy off the field. Yeah. Suicide prevention, he's all about that, which we are too on this channel. So yeah. Next up we got our boy, Cleveland Browns tight end. Austin Hooper. Want to talk about Austin Hooper?
Austin Hooper, I mean, being a Browns fan, watching, literally all the Browns games, I could see that his ball security is just amazing. You can always, with the ball in his hands, I mean, you're never going to see, an 80-yard touchdown, but you're also going to never see an 8-yard loss. It's going to be a 12-yard gain.
Yeah, another guy who's like really the definition of solid. Like, you just count on him. He's got good hands.
This was now his second straight solid season after coming to the Browns and before on the Falcons. 2 straight seasons being solid.
He's a beast. All right, next up we got Evan Ingram, who is a little bit controversial. Evan Ingram, like in the past, I would say has been above average. Like,
but
really good.
He definitely did not have an above average season this year. So I think he is borderline above average, but you really just can't put him in above average. So he is,
I think, between
another definition of solid.
Between the poor blocking,
between the season last year and the injury concerns, and then like you said, the poor blocking, he's just not really a complete tight end that you can really rely on all the time. So that's why he's not above average, and he just makes a solid tier. Last guy In the solid tier, we've got
Mike Gesicki.
Gesicki.
Mike
Not
Gesicki
good at English.
of the Miami Dolphins, and he kind of had a breakout year a little bit last year. Really showed some flashes. Tua liked throwing him the ball, and he is one of the most athletic tight ends in the game, making these one-hand snags. His highlight reel's dope. So Mike Gesicki, he's never really had a crazy season, so that's why
he was really on no one's radar before this season.
But he's a Penn State guy, and we love Penn State here.
Amen.
So there we go. That caps off the solid tier. Brandon, let's introduce the not ideal.
Here comes not ideal. I'm going to do 2 here. The Eagles duo, Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz. Dallas Goedert had a very hot first game and was looking like he could have been a very pleasant surprise and have a good breakout year, but he really seemed to be kind of not as good Johnny Smith, a guy who has a couple good games but is really not that consistent.
I see. If this was my tier list, I'd put Goddard in the solid tier. He had Carson Wentz throwing him the ball half the year, and then Jalen Hurts,
another running back.
I thought he actually if you watched him play, I thought he looked really good. Fantasy wise, he was a little inconsistent, but and then Zach Ertz, he's just old.
Zach Ertz. I mean, he was a big part of that Super Bowl winning team back a couple years ago, but now he just can't even stay on the field. So
Zach Ertz, that speaks for itself. So next we got Logan Thomas of the Washington football team. Logan Thomas, a lot of guys might not know who this is, but he had a really solid season last year, finally broke out at age 29. And he was really solid for the football team last year, even with Alex Smith throwing him the ball.
Yeah.
Sir.
All right. We don't have that much to say about Logan Thomas, so we're going to move right on.
Logang.
Any of these guys you want to talk about?
Well, just Jimmy Graham we put in the not ideal. He's had a great career, but at this point, he hasn't had hair for a couple years now. Age
is just a number, man.
Yeah.
So
the career's coming to an end soon with him. So.
Wasn't he on the Seahawks? No, Saints.
Seahawks, Saints,
no,
Packers. He's been all over.
What was his prime? Seahawks or Saints?
Saints.
All right. Next guy, we've got Saints new tight end Adam Troutman.
Don't know who.
A lot of guys might not know who this is.
Not ideal.
He was a rookie last year. He went to Dayton. He actually has a lot of upside. I think you guys will learn his name this year. But not ideal. He hasn't really done anything. You could even make an argument that he's in the trash here. He just has not proven anything. But I think he has some upside, so that's why he's not ideal. Irv Smith Jr., also not ideal. Hasn't done anything, but again, a lot of upside. Kyle Rudolph, we can talk about too real quick in the not ideal tier. He's had a good career with the Vikings, but never really amounted to all that much.
Yeah, never had a huge season, had some down seasons, and now he's old.
Yeah, this past season was definitely not one he wants you to remember for his career.
Yeah, plus I don't like his tattoos very much. Kind of ugly.
He has
tattoos?
Oh, yeah. Jack Doyle, Indianapolis Colts, also goes to the not ideal. You know what? Again, all these guys are kind of similar. They're not bad per se, but they're just nothing special.
Yeah, I definitely think maybe 2 or so years ago, Jack Doyle definitely had a solid argument for solid and could have been possibly above average, but definitely right now he is not an ideal situation.
All right, next up, Dallas Cowboys tight end Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz took over for the injured Blake Jarwin in Dallas last year and played pretty well. Nothing special.
Yeah, but there's just really not been much proven, so I don't think you can really call him a solid tight end yet.
And it definitely hurt him having a bunch of bums thrown to him all season after Dak went down, so.
True. Next guy on our list, Brain.
Our next guy is Cole Kmet, a guy I am not too familiar with, but I have been informed that he is a Chicago Bears tight end, and I don't know much about him, so I just called him not ideal.
He's still young.
He was a rookie last year and didn't really, he did he showed some flashes, but didn't really do
Yeah.
much. He was considered the best tight end in his class. That was a pretty
Yeah.
weak class.
Had a great career at Notre Dame,
What year?
and so
So yeah.
shows lots of potential. We'll see.
Next guy, Dawson Knox of the Buffalo Bills. We don't even need. I mean, it's basically again what we've been saying. Just
But see, I
not
think the Bills have decent weapons that are underrated just because they're not used. Like, I think Devin Singletary is highly underrated just due to the fact that they don't use them.
Devin Singletary is like a scat back. Like he's never
Yeah.
gonna be like a workhorse. So if that's what you're expecting, then he's gonna let you down every time. But
Yeah,
He
he's
does-
not a red zone back. He's get you, 7 yards back, not 1 yard.
Yeah.
and the last guy in the not ideal tier is Chargers new tight end Jared Cook. Jared Cook's another guy who's ancient. He's been in the league in forever. Played for every team, but he's been pretty consistently solid. And considering that he's gone from team to team, he's been able to produce wherever
He's had a good past couple of years with the Saints. Him and Drew Brees seemed like they had a good connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now he moves to the Chargers with Justin Herbert, so that'll be interesting to see what he can do.
Yeah.
But he is getting up there. I think he's like 34, 35 now. Moving on to our last and final tier, we've got the trash tier. These guys
Horse
are absolute
manure.
dog water, horse manure, 0 PR earnings check.
Many of you probably haven't even heard of some of these players.
Yes. So
Yeah.
starting it off,
Chris Herndon. Until I heard about a lot of these dudes that I had never heard of, he was most likely the worst relevant tight end last year.
I mean, there were some people. Yeah, I would agree with what you
Worst
said.
That is a
Worst
very
relevant.
true statement.
There've been people the last couple of years that are like wanting Herndon to be good, but he just doesn't. He's just not. The Jets are just a dumpster fire.
It's a mess.
Poverty franchise.
Yeah.
So
Horse manure.
moving on, Eric Ebron of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean,
Former Colt.
first of all, if you play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're dog water. But second of all, if you're not good and you play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, then you're not even worth mentioning. You're trash.
Actual
Exactly.
trash.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're trash. All right. Next guy. Now we're getting into the
Probably
guys you might not have
sleeps
heard
in
of.
dumpsters.
All
Yeah,
right.
bad joke.
Okay.
Bad joke.
All right. All right. CJ Uzoma of the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah, I think he's their starting tight end for the moment.
Yeah. I would say a lot of people probably don't know who he is, but I mean, I could see him making some noise in a couple years, but for now, he definitely is trash.
I don't know.
With him,
Yeah.
I think it possibly could have gotten into not ideal, but certainly is not great.
Solid.
Not great. I'd say we have him ranked right. Next guy, Tyler Eifert, who had one good season with the Bengals that we were just talking about.
But
Way back. That was like in
than that,
2015 or something.
His career
I
has
remember
been
their
nothing.
rookie years on the Bengals. Tyler Boyd and Tyler Eifert, the two Tylers, had a pretty good season.
I think he's on the Jaguars now.
Jaguars.
Tyler
Could be wrong.
Boyd has developed into a good player, but Eifert, the other Tyler,
That
has
dude
not.
is maybe the most injury prone player in the entire NFL.
Him
Oh, yeah.
and Zach Ertz, who we talked about
No,
earlier.
Deshaun Jackson.
Oh yeah. Well, all right. Outside of Deshaun. All right. Next
He
guy.
probably has a seat with his name on it at some hospitals.
Yeah. True. The doctors know him by name. They're like, oh hey Deshaun. All right. Next guy, Gerald Everett, Seattle Seahawks new tight end, formerly the Rams tight end. Gerald Everett, we put him in the trash tier. Like, you could say he's not ideal. That's kind of controversial. Like, he's a pretty athletic guy, and he's shown flashes with the Rams, but like he's never really put it all together. Statistically, he's nothing special, and a lot of people probably haven't heard of him.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a couple good, decent years with the Rams, and switching teams. Who knows? He's not great, but
Moving on, not great. Moving on, Anthony Fursker of the Tennessee Titans, and I bet most people don't know who this is.
yeah.
He's the only reason we're mentioning him is because he's now the starting tight end for the Titans after Jonnu Smith left. He actually played last year. He wasn't terrible, but just not. I mean, he hasn't done anything. He hasn't proven that he can do anything. So at the moment, trash.
I mean, last year he did decent with his limited reps being the backup tight end, so he'll get
Yeah.
a
'cause-
very increased amount of work this year, but
Yeah,
We'll
so
see
we'll
what
see,
happens.
because Johnny Smith, after his first 2 games, was doing pretty well, so he got most of the attention, so we'll see how he develops.
All right, next guy. We've got Ian Thomas with the Carolina Panthers.
A dude I had no clue he existed till about maybe a half hour ago.
yeah, this morning was the first time I was made familiar with
his name.
Ian Thomas.
Yeah, Ian Thomas, I feel like is similar to who am I gonna say? Chris Herndon a little bit. Like people have been trying to like make him a thing, but he's just not. And then the last guy was like we've just made like we looked through all the teams starting tight end, and I think Max. I want to say like it's like not Max Crosby. He plays for the
It's like
Raiders.
Max
Williams, I think,
Max Williams.
with 2 X's. Max with 2 X's. So if you're named Max with 2 X's, you automatically belong in the trash tier. You're just your parents hated you. So,
Wow.
so that pretty much rounds out the tight end tier list. If you have any, if you disagree or agree, drop it in the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Leroy Blasier on YouTube.
Leroy
Check out
Blasier.
HTSP, the Hottest Take Sports podcast, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
And make sure to like and subscribe to the Chosen 121. He's on a come up big year ahead for this man right here.
Amen.
Hope
All right.
you enjoy.
Go Browns.
Peace.
And Penn State and Darren